Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. It's an absolutely beautiful day here in sunny Southern California. But if you're new to the Drive Steady channel, my name is Andy and we primarily do car reviews. But in today's video, I'm gonna do a long-term review of my very own Shelby GT350 that you see here behind me. But before getting to that, I'm gonna tell a story on how I came to this video. So I had a car booked to do a review for you guys, and the owner called me earlier in the week and said that he's gonna have to cancel. So I said, okay, plan B. I went ahead and booked another car. What was that, on Thursday? And today's Saturday, so Friday morning, the person called me and said, sorry, I have to cancel. So I went 0 for 2, so I said, screw it, I'm just gonna do a review on my own car. So that's kind of the story and how we came to this vlog style post. I know I don't do many of these, but this is gonna be one because it's covering my very own car. So here we go, let's talk about my car. Let me turn the camera over so you can see the car. It is a 2017 Shelby GT350 painted in avalanche gray with the black stripes. In addition to that, the car has the Recaro seats. Let me come in here, show you what that looks like. There we go. I believe this is the electronic package, or it's the technology pack. I don't remember. Ford switched up the codes going from 16 to 17 model year. But anyway, it's the Recaro seat, and I do have the 8-inch or 8.5-inch screen. Anyway, continuing on the rest of the car, like I said, it's an avalanche gray 2017. I've owned it for about 3 years now. No, actually a little bit over 3 years. And the story behind this car is that back in 2017, the Shelby GT350 had humongous markups. And especially in the Southern California area, where a popular dealer was charging north of $10,000, and they just wouldn't budge. So I had to go out of state. And my story on how I got to this car, I originally wanted the R version, and I found one in Kansas, but that deal completely fell through for a very dumb and illogical reason from the dealer. They just wouldn't deal with anybody in California for some odd reason. So regrettably, I wasn't able to close that deal on the R, and that was only $5,000 over sticker. At the time, the R version was going for $30,000 over sticker. Anyway, I ended up getting the car behind me for $500 over sticker probably 3.5 years ago. And I've been unbelievably satisfied. It's probably the best car I've ever owned. I've had an E46 M3. I've actually had 2 E46 M3s. I've driven several BMWs in between, but this car is just on a completely different level. So let me tell you a little bit more about my experience with the GT350. This is actually the first car I've ever owned myself that's a manual transmission car. I knew how to drive a manual transmission before I had this car, but not really on a day-to-day basis. My belief, or at least my exposure after owning this car, is you really get used to stick shift or manual transmissions when you drive them on a day-to-day basis. You just get used to it and it becomes ordinary. So like I said, my exposure, my first day-to-day exposure of the manual transmission was with this car. And that's kind of a good and a bad thing, because as many of you are aware, the Shelby GT350 only comes in a 6-speed manual transmission. And it's a good thing because it's probably one of the best manual transmission cars I've ever driven. And it's not just me, many car reviewers believe that this Shelby GT350, I believe it's called the Tremec TR 5660 or the 6560, I don't remember exactly what the term was, or maybe it's just 6660. But many car reviewers have said that this is the best manual transmission car that they've driven, and I certainly do not disagree. So the bad part about that is that this car has absolutely spoiled me in every single way. Not only has it spoiled me with respects to driving a manual transmission car, the actual manual transmission experience, the transmission itself, when I get into other cars, I can absolutely feel the difference between the transmission in this car versus the transmission in that car that I'm driving. And the flip side of that is it's gotten me used to almost like turned into a manual transmission homer. I feel like Every car I look at or any new car that comes out, the first question I ask myself is it gonna have a manual transmission? And that's not really the best thing because, as many of you know, the manual transmission is pretty much dying. The only cars that you can get in a manual now are the Mustang, the Camaro, the Challenger, and the 911. But nonetheless, it's actually a bad thing because, like I said, this thing has completely spoiled me. I've reviewed an AMG GTR on this channel. I recently did a BMW M2 Competition, which are two unbelievable, fantastic cars. But when I drove those cars, I kind of walked away with, I feel like there's just something missing here, and it's because of this Shelby. This car has spoiled me with its manual transmission. It's kind of enlightened my horizons of the manual transmission and what a wonderful thing it is. And for all of you who don't know how to drive a manual transmission, please go out and learn how to drive a manual transmission, because I was on the side where, oh, who cares about manual transmissions? The double clutch transmission shifts so much faster and it's all about lap times and blah, 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 blah. And after I drove this car and after I learned how to drive a manual transmission, my opinion of a stick shift completely changed. Now, like I said, the first question I ask is, does the car have a manual transmission? So when the Corvette, I was really excited, I'm a big Corvette fan, and I was really excited about the C8, and when I found out that it's not gonna have a manual, I was like, that really, really sucks. All right, continuing on, not to get too much off topic here, one last thing about the manual transmission, and hopefully this can put it into perspective. I don't mean to keep harping about it, but I feel like the GT350 or the manual transmission makes the car fun to drive all the freaking time, okay? Even when I drive slow, I'm having fun in this car. But when I drove the M2 Competition, or when I drove the AMG GTR, or basically any car with a fast automatic or double clutch transmission, when I'm driving slow, I feel like the engagement just isn't there. It just feels like I'm driving a regular car, let alone a car that has 707 horsepower or over 500, almost 600 horsepower in the AMG GTR. So that's kind of putting a bow on the whole manual transmission experience, the good and the bad. The next thing that is the absolute selling point of the GT350 is, of course, the 5.2 liter engine and then the exhaust that comes out from out back of this car. Take a listen. I think many would agree that that is probably one of the best stock sounding V8 engines, period. American or European, and yes, that is the stock sound of the GT350. This car has not been modified. Anyway, now let's keep talking about my experience with the GT350. Like I said, I've had this car for a little over 3 years. I have done 3 oil changes, and as a reminder for all of you who are interested in this car, the Shelby GT350 has an oil change interval of every year or 10,000 miles. Yes, you heard me right. Every single year you have to do an oil change on the Shelby GT350. Me personally, I have never exceeded 10,000 miles per year, but I have done an oil change every single year on my car. And I think that's one of the main things that's important that kind of trumps, at least in my opinion, one of the big things that people don't like about the GT350, and that's the engine blowing up. I feel like many owners neglect the GT350 oil change. They don't pay a lot of attention to it, or they don't do it on time. But that's for a different video that I've already made. Here is a link to it up here in the right-hand corner, where I outline a buyer's guide for anybody who's interested in a Shelby GT350. Basically telling you what to look out for, questions to be asking the owner, certain things that I collected throughout my ownership experience that I wanted to pass along to people who are interested in the Shelby GT350. Continuing on, a couple issues that I have. They're not really issues, they're not big deals for me, but they are very common in the Shelby GT350, and that is the sagging rear bumper or the paint quality issues that you see in the rear bumper. Here you can see this is on the passenger side, and here's the bumper alignment. It's kind of good down here, but and then as you come up here, the gap gets pretty wide, and there's some paint cracking and paint chipping here that probably won't come through in the video. That just shows how minor it is. But for perspective's sake, here's the driver's side, and look at this. Look at that gap right there. And then as you go up, it gets a little bit better here, and then here, it's not as good. But here you can see that line. You see that line right here? Right there? That's like paint crack. And yeah, that's one thing that you're gonna have to get used to if you're looking for a GT350. I don't know, some people call it an issue. I personally don't care about it. The whole driving experience of the Shelby GT350 kind of trumps everything. But basically, beyond just doing the regular oil change and filling the coolant, I personally have had no mechanical issues with my GT350. Okay, now let me talk about some of the things that I've changed on my car. So the first thing is that I changed it to the Ford Performance Blue air filter. Let me go ahead and pop open my hood. What the heck's the matter with you, Andy? Why didn't you have this popped open before? But hey, that's just me talking to myself. All right, let me see. That's kind of hot. All right, let me see here. All right, there, and I'm not gonna pry it completely open, but there is my Ford Performance Blue air filter. It doesn't really make a performance gain, or you don't really get any extra horsepower. I haven't really noticed any additional intake induction noise, but the paper one that the stock GT350 comes with, that one has to be replaced on an interval basis, and off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what that was. Let me close the hood here. Yeah, but this Ford Performance one, this blue one, has a kind of a lifetime span. You just can take it out, clean it. I personally don't plan on leaving it in there for the entire duration of my ownership. I probably will clean it and take it out and maybe replace it with another blue one. But like I said, this one is reusable. You can take it out, clean it, as opposed to the paper one that comes in the stock GT350. One of the other things that I did recently actually is apply a ceramic coating on the exterior of the car. And it's not one of the expensive ones like SiO2 or the ones that require more of a professional application. This is the one from Turtle Wax. I've actually been really happy with the way this ceramic coating performs. The water beads more than it sheets. And if you're curious onto what water beading means, when you spray the car, it beads up, it doesn't actually stick onto the car. And water sheeting is when the water completely just falls off the car. So that's the difference. I did apply it on my other car and it's the same performance. It lasts for about 3 to 6 months and it's actually very cheap. I think at Walmart it's about $12. I believe on Amazon it's roughly the same price. I will put a link to that in the description below just in case you're interested. I have personally had a fantastic experience. All right, so those are the two things that I've done to it other than just the oil change and the coolant top off. Some of the things that I'm getting an itch for are starting to maybe modify this car. Because I don't really drive it on a day-to-day basis, I'm thinking about maybe dropping it with the Ford Performance springs, throwing on some additional wheels on there, maybe putting an R spoiler, the Watson structural piece that you can put in the back seat. I think that's so cool. But those are some of the things. I'm starting to get the itch after about 3.5 years of ownership of modifying the GT350 and of course, maybe an exhaust, who knows. But that's kind of in the background. When I bought this car, I told myself I wouldn't modify it because I think it's great the way it is. So we shall see, no promises, but that's pretty much it. Now let's go to the interior. Let me give you a point of view of the GT350 driving, and hopefully you'll get a nice experience of what it feels like to drive the GT350, the manual transmission in addition to that, and probably most importantly, more doses of the exhaust. All right, so we're gonna try point of view for the first time, and this is the startup of the Shelby GT350. Push the clutch in, you've got a red button right there, push that, and it fires up. Of course, it fires up in the non-track oriented exhaust mode, which means the baffles are closed. There's a button right here. You flip that, which I'm about to do, and that'll open up the baffles. I don't know if you can tell the difference there, but it opens up and it becomes a lot more deeper and basically sounds a lot better with the baffles open. Okay, so now let's get rolling with the point of view. All right, so like I said, 6-speed manual shifter, clutch in, make sure my brake lever is down, and off we go. Let me lower my window. Hopefully the wind noise doesn't diffract from the engine noise or the exhaust noise. This is the problem that you have with the Shelby GT350. You always look for something that's not steep, that you can take at an angle, because I'm so worried about scratching my front bumper. All right, there we go. Yes, good, success. So let me give you a dose of what this sounds like. Here we go. All right, so that was a quick pull, and yeah, the shifter feel is so good. It just, for anybody who's even a novice, this shifter will become very accommodating and very forgiving. I heard very scary stories about the shifter in the GT350, but for me, I was able to get acclimated very, very quickly. It's different than most shifters, but it's not complicated, I guess, for the lack of a better term. So yeah, this is what it feels like. I mean, many people do complain that it doesn't have the low-end grunt that maybe an LS motor in the Corvette has, and that's true, it certainly doesn't, but at the same time, the LS motors don't have the same amount of redline or high revving nature. Maybe I should shut up and let you guys listen to the engine. So as I was saying, this Voodoo engine is different than a LS type engine. It revs much, much higher. And in my opinion, I think it's a lot more engaging and a lot more fun to drive when you have to wring the engine out for the extra power. And I think people are like looking at me because I've got this funny looking thing on my head. That's what it looks like. And yeah, so this is really the only way you can do a point of view video. So here it is. But anyway, back to the driving experience. The gauges are analog, and I kind of like that. I was originally accustomed to the whole technology thing, and when people were getting into all digital gauges, no more analog style gauges, but the Shelby GT350 has kind of really changed my perspective of cars in general, and it's kind of made me back to a traditionalist and a purist style. And it's unfortunate because not very many manufacturers are able to duplicate that type of experience anymore. I mean, at least in my opinion, I think Porsche is kind of the only one that's doing something like this now. But anyway, let me be quiet here again, and let's do a quick pull. Let's do another quick pull. I don't know if I'll get it to 8,000 or 8,250, but I'll try and get close. Let's see. Yeah, that experience never gets old. It's so much fun taking this thing out, revving it past redline, not past redline, or up to its 8250 redline. It's just really, really addicting. As a long-term review, I really, really like my Shelby GT350. I know a lot of people have had different experiences with the GT350, people's engines blowing, just random things happening there and here and there. But for me, knock on wood, it's been great. No mechanical issues thus far. And the way I like to put it is, it's fine like wine. It just keeps getting better and better. The more I drive it, the more I break it in, and the more I take care of it, it just keeps giving back to me. I think that's just the critical point in the GT350 ownership. If you take care of it, it will take care of you. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.